G'day everyone and welcome back to Ace Trainer. My name is Bodhi and today we're debuting a new show with only 1 month left until the International Challenge in Melbourne, Australia, where we talk about the decks I think have the ability to win it all at Melbourne. Since this is the first episode, we're going to talk about the deck that I believe I have the most knowledge and experience with, as well as the deck that I expect to take the most top placings. That deck is of course Decidueye GX. Decidueye GX we should all know by now, but just in case you're new to the game or to the channel, we'll have a quick 30-second look at the card. Its ability, Feather Arrow, allows you to place 2 damage counters on your opponent's Pokemon each turn. Razor Leaf, Decidueye's attack, does 90 damage for 3 energy. And the GX attack, Hollow Hunt, allows you to take 3 cards from your discard pile and place them back into your hand. The card is obviously fantastic at sniping down your opponent's active or benched Pokemon, as well as sporting a massive 240 HP that is hard to take KOs on, making Lysander in your opponent's deck less than valuable than normal. But we've gone over Decidueye at length in my older Decidueye video. Today we are looking ahead and we are talking about how Decidueye can take out the victory at the Melbourne International Challenge. Decidueye comes into the Sun and Moon format with a very clear set of strengths and weaknesses that most competent competitive players will have picked up on long before they drew a hand of the deck. With Forest of Giant Plants, you'll be able to evolve Decidueye on the first turn of the game and begin to take knockouts, or place plenty of damage on your opponent's Pokemon before they can even draw a card. Of course, the downside to Decidueye is being able to remove its ability with cards like Garbodor and make it nothing more than a big 240 HP bench sitter. A number of popular decks in the current metagame before Sun and Moon will also have a hard time matching up against Decidueye. Decks such as Vespiquen, Greninja, and future decks such as Solgaleo, Lurantis, and Umbreon all have one thing in common that Decidueye decks are going to love. The common theme? Low HP basic Pokemon. With Vespiquen, Greninja, Solgaleo, Lurantis, and Umbreon, all decks that look like they will either remain or join the Sun and Moon metagame, their low 60 HP basic Pokemon are going to be very easy for Decidueye players to take quick prizes against. Decidueye has a big weakness that has plagued all ability-heavy decks since its original inception in Dragons Exalted. That card is Garbodor. Of course, the deck does have a good chance to kill Trubbish when your opponent benches it or starts with it, as it only has 70 HP and can be knocked out with 4 Feather Arrow abilities. Garbodor will remain a tough spot for Decidueye lists coming in future formats, no matter how many Combi the deck KOs. We're going to examine 3 different deck lists for Decidueye GX, each with its own strengths and weaknesses, and hopefully by the end of this video, we will all come together unanimously about the best version of Decidueye. Really? A laugh track? Alright, let's get back into it. The first list we're going to talk about that contains Decidueye is the deck that my very first Sun and Moon video was based on, and that is Decidueye Latios. Decidueye Latios is a deck that relies heavily on the first few turns of the game to take your opponent completely out of the game from the get-go. As I have found, however, in over 100 games of testing with the deck, those first few turns and the turns after are equally important, and sometimes those turns after are just as good and even better than the first. With access to cards such as Puzzle of Time, Devolution Spray, and Hollow Hunt, you'll be able to continuously use and reuse your resources with freedom. Let's take a look at the deck list for Decidueye Latios. Although we've spoken at length in a previous video about Decidueye GX, sharing lists with you guys is something that makes for important discussion and gives you all a starting point to base your deck decisions off of. That said, for the video to remain under 10 minutes, I will only go quickly over a few things that have changed since I previewed this deck list 3 weeks ago. The inclusion of Professor Kukui to give the deck additional reach for Pokemon with over 200 HP has really cemented itself as a great choice in my testing. Maxing out on 4 Double Dragon Energy in hope to take KOs with Light Pulse after the first turn of the game is also a great option. The other big difference is the inclusion of Extra Revitalizer and Escape Rope, 2 cards I have come to feel benefit the deck far more than any other supporter or items possibly could. As usual, we max out on our drawing cards and trainer cards to keep the deck running smoothly each and every game. The big weakness of this deck is its inability to survive under item lock, and of course, Volcanion eats the deck for breakfast. Taking big KOs against Latios each and every turn of the game, Volcanion steams up a few times and then takes the knockout. Latios is going to be successful in this format because of the general reliance on lower HP Pokemon, as we mentioned earlier, but can survive against EX heavy decks as well thanks to Light Pulse and Feather Arrow. The second list we're going to talk about that contains Decidueye is a deck that I have been testing in my own circles for a couple of weeks. The original list, I am unsure who was the first person to publish the deck, but we will be having a detailed look at Tauros, Decidueye, and Alolan Muk. This version of the deck relies almost entirely on special energy too, but in a much easier way to maintain than the Latios version. For a double colorless energy, Tauros has three options available to it for damage. Muk is included in the deck to give a much more positive matchup against Volcanion EX decks, as well as stop decks like Vespiquen and any ability heavy decks from taking off against the deck. This deck runs a thinner Decidueye line than the Latios version, and doesn't run any cards like Puzzle of Time or Devolution Spray to constantly replace damage. Let's take a look at Decidueye Muk Tauros. As you can see from the list, the biggest difference between this deck and the Latios variant is that the deck plays far more supporters. With cards like Lily and N being included in the deck, you will be able to much more convincingly draw through your deck and attack each turn, without worrying about item lock nearly as much. Alola Muk is accompanied by float stones and escape rope to prevent its massive retreat cost from becoming any sort of issue. And the inclusion of 3 Fighting Fury Belt gives Tauros a much tankier 220 HP, meaning both Rage and Mad Bull GX are going to do more damage in the middle stages of the game. I do really enjoy this version of the deck, and combining Rage with Decidueye's ability Feather Arrow gives a fantastic early game. And giving the deck a positive Volcanion EX matchup is something that Grass-type decks and attackers have been thoroughly lacking. The third and final list we're going to talk about that contains Decidueye is a deck that I don't have too much experience with. But the best part about our little video series is that we can all learn together. Hoothoot is a 60 HP basic Pokemon that has the same attack as Seismitoad EX from Furious Fists, but you take no damage from its attack. This deck seems like it has the potential to be quite a strong disruption deck, stopping your opponent's item-heavy decks from being able to play any cards, while taking stacking damage from Decidueye. The issue I can see with this kind of deck, however, is the low HP attacking Pokemon, and without consistent ways to shut off your opponent's attacks, you may still be able to break through Hoothoot's turn after turn without taking too much damage from feather arrows. The deck does feel like it doesn't have too many opportunities to win the game outright, and although you're taking some damage from Decidueye, you're never going to be doing enough to knock out the cards that may see success in the format. So there you have it, guys. 3 different Decidueye decks, 2 different Decidueye deck lists that I think have the potential to truly change the format and take some top placings at big events. For Melbourne, each episode I will try to make a prediction about its prospective finish at the event, and I will say that Decidueye finishes in the top 4. Make sure to check out all of our social media set out on screen: Facebook, Twitter, website, Castbox, and SoundCloud. We'll be back this afternoon with an all-new Scoundrel Ring episode, as well as plenty of new content coming soon. Thanks, guys, and have a fantastic day.